and gentlemen, welcome to Fondation Beyeler. I wish you a warm welcome. Thanks for taking the time to come here and visiting our museum. We hope you will also enjoy the Bacon and Giacometti exhibition upstairs and the collection presentation on nature and abstraction. It includes a special room of works by American artist Bryce Marden from the Daros collection and one by Brazilian artist Ernesto Neto. He's doing an artist talk, Ernesto Neto, with Hans-Ulrich Obrist here on Friday at 5 p.m., so you're most welcome to that. There's also going to be a media tour of the public art project entitled Gaia Mother Tree on June 29th at the Great Hall of the main railway station in Zurich. There, a large, over 1,000 square meter large, multi-sensory interactive sculpture with 1 month of public programming, including meditation, workshops, concerts, roundtable discussions with artists, scientists, and shamans will be presented by Ernesto Neto. Millions of Swiss and tourists will see the public artwork over the summer, which is probably the most spectacular in our country since Christo and Jean-Claude wrapped the trees here around Fondation Beyeler. Our exhibition in the fall is also likely to create a lot of attention. It's dedicated to the Polish, French, German artist Balthus, who lived and died here in Switzerland. But today, we have invited you to announce another show, by far the most ambitious our museum has organized to date. It's dedicated to the most influential artist of the 20th century, Pablo Picasso, and will focus on his blue and pink period, featuring the groundbreaking inventions he made in his early career from 1901 to 1907 after moving to Paris. Our special guest, Diana Wittmeyer-Picasso, art historian, curator, and the granddaughter of the artist, and our curator, Raphaël Bouvier, who will organize the show here at Fondation Beyeler, will tell you more about Picasso and the exhibition in a few minutes. It's organized in cooperation with Musée Picasso and Musée d'Orsay, our partners, where the show will be presented first in the fall. The exhibition in Basel will be partially different, as it will include the period which leads to the Demoiselles d'Avignon and the Cubist Revolution. This is the first large exhibition in Europe, uniting the most significant works from this period, 1901 to 1907. The last and only one has been organized in the United States by the National Gallery in Washington and the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston in 1997-98, so 20 years ago. In Switzerland's capital, Bern, there were exhibitions in 1984-1992 on parts of this subject. The blue and pink period is highly significant for Picasso becoming Picasso and the great master of this period of art history known as modern art. It's also the most loved period of Picasso's work by the general public. Our exhibition will investigate how Picasso started the works from the so-called blue period, how it transformed in the so-called pink period and the so-called Ghazal period and into the proto-cubist period within only a few highly productive and inventive years. If exhibitions of these periods are so extremely rare, it is for several reasons. One, the works are rare, often very fragile, and very, very rarely lent. Also because they're amongst the most popular in the museums that own them. And they are extremely valuable, both as cultural treasures of our civilization and also on the art market, with many of them valued at over $100 million. So Fondation Beyeler has a reputation of organizing highly ambitious and beautiful exhibitions, but without doubt, the early Picasso exhibition is the most challenging and expensive enterprise we have undertaken. We also expect to get worldwide attention and draw a record number of visitors from Switzerland and internationally, even more than for our critically acclaimed Gauguin and Monet shows. The early Picasso exhibition will unite about 80 works, mainly paintings, but also sculptures and works on paper, from prominent museums in Europe, the US, Canada, Russia, China, and Japan, including the Metropolitan Museum, the National Gallery in London, the Pushkin Museum in Moscow, the Centre Pompidou, Paris, the Berggruen Museum, the Reina Sofia, and of course our partner Musée Picasso and Musée d'Orsay and Musée de l'Orangerie in Paris, to name just a few. But what makes our show particularly attractive are the significant number of works from private collection that can very, very rarely be seen in public. There are several Picasso exhibitions, of course, opening every year, many of them great shows. Ours will certainly be one once in a generation experience. With these high prices on the art market, who knows, maybe a once in a lifetime, and definitely a highlight of the cultural calendar. This is why we hope that you're going to put it on your calendar and well in advance, and will be coming and visit the show and report on it. As you may know, Basel has a long history with Picasso, who visited the city staying at the Three Kings Hotel when he had his very first museum exhibition ever here in Switzerland at the Kunsthaus in Zurich. Basel also had the legendary public vote in 1967 to acquire the Harlequins, the two brothers, for the public art collection at the Kunstmuseum, which touched the artist so much that he actually donated two works for them for the public collection in Basel. Picasso was also a personal friend of the founder of our museum, Ernst Beyeler, who had organized many solo exhibitions and had sold over 1,000 original works in his of the artist in his career as an art dealer. One can say Picasso was his favorite artist, as he's also the best represented in the private collection that forms the basis of our museum, which has luckily one of the finest groups of painting and sculpture by the artists worldwide. They've been enhanced since last year by 11 Picassos from the Antax Mark collection, which are here on permanent loan. This case gave us the idea to do something we have never dared to do, and probably no or very few other important institutions. We will turn the entire Fondation Beyeler into a temporary Picasso museum, presenting, in addition to the exhibition on the early works by Picasso, also the works from following period until the end of his life. So visitors will actually get a lot of Picasso for their money, and also a lot of great masterworks to enjoy and to learn about. We think this is great news, and therefore want you to be the first one to learn about it, and also to want you to give the first glimpse into some of the works that will be in the exhibition. Please, Raphael.
With the exhibition, The Early Picasso, Blue and Rose Period, Fondation Beyeler is devoting itself to Picasso's early career, focusing on the renowned Blue and Rose periods that characterized his art from 1901 to 1906. The imagery of these periods possesses universal meaning and not only belongs to the most beautiful and emotional in modern art, but the most exquisite as well. Especially the pictures of the Blue and Rose period illustrate how Picasso's precocious talent gradually led to an innovative formal idiom which would influence the entire 20th century. Based on approximately 80 masterworks from renowned international museums and distinguished private collections, the exhibition sheds light on one of the key periods in the development of Picasso's oeuvre and touches, as Sam mentioned, on the epoch-making emergence of Cubism in 1907. Not least in this regard, the Beyeler venue of the exhibition differs from the one at the Musée d'Orsay, where more attention is devoted backwards to Picasso's artistic background, while the Fondation Beyeler's venue and view on the Blue and Rose period is more oriented prospectively. As you could or you can see afterwards from the scale model of the show behind you, which provides you also an insight into the working process of this exhibition, the Basel venue will present, as it were, the quintessence of Picasso's early oeuvre, including works that will only be on view here. In 1901, at the age of only 19 years, Picasso had his first large show in Paris, where his unique style already became apparent. A young and up-and-coming artist who from this point on would sign his pictures with his surname Picasso alone, as in the legendary self-portrait Yo Picasso that you can see on the left. He began a search for new subject matter and forms of expressions which he rapidly took to perfection. Thanks to his enormous creativity, he developed new approaches and visual worlds in rapid succession in one artistic revolution after another. During Picasso's alternating stays in Paris and Barcelona between 1901 and 1904, works of incomparable subtlety and force emerged, in which the young artist, in memory of the suicide of his artist friend Carlos Casagemas, began to employ the color blue as the prime vehicle of expression. The resulting melancholy atmosphere also conveyed Picasso's own precarious situation prior to his breakthrough, as seen in his famous blue self-portrait from the Musée Picasso in Paris, here on the right. In the works of the blue period, fragile and contemplative figures appear who, despite their individual and social misery, exude a strong sense of dignity. These moving and profound images show Picasso confronting existential themes such as life, desire, destiny, and death. These are personified as much by touching young women, men, but also children and old people who embody both sadness and hope to an equal extent. While in this presentation I show you only works that have been already promised to the exhibition in Basel, the major masterpiece La Vie from the Cleveland Museum of Art that you see here on the right is still the subject of loan negotiation. Also, we are very confident that also this superb work will finally find its way to Basel. In immediate succession to the blue period in 1905, pictures emerged in which the dominant blue palette gave way to gradations of pink. In terms of content, this experimental rose period imagery is characterized by the artist's first profound experiences of love, expressed delicately in erotic depictions of young women. Among these, we are very fortunate to be able to present the compelling Jeune Fille au Panier Fleuri, which only a few weeks ago caused a furore at the record auction of the Rockefeller collection in New York. It's the work that you see on the right. In place of lonely figures and beggars, the delightful pictures of the Rose period, increasingly populated by groups or families of acrobats, artists, and circus performers who, like Picasso's alter egos, embodied the ideal of the anti-bourgeois world of Bohemia. These included touching and singular masterpieces such as Acrobat et Jeune Harlequin from a private collection here on the left, and also Famille d'Arlequin aux Singes from the Göteborg Museum of Art, which are only very rarely lent to exhibitions. Thanks to the commercial success of the Rose period works, and in search of fresh inspiration, Picasso spent several weeks in the summer of 1906 in the mountain village of Gozol in Catalonia, together with his first great love and muse, Fernande Olivier. There, under the influence of this woman, but also of the stark landscape and the rustic lives of the inhabitants, emerged idyllic scenes and nudes in which classical and archaic figuration were combined in a completely new way. Perfect examples of this are key works like Les Deux Frères from the Kunstmuseum in Basel, a true icon here, and La Toilette from the Albright Knox Museum in Buffalo. Back in Paris, at the end of 1906, Picasso's involvement with ancient Iberian sculpture led to forms of expression that have been labeled primitivist, in principally female nudes, such as Nu au front rouge from the Orangerie in Paris, but also Femmes nues assises, les jambes croisées from the National Gallery in Prague. These express an increasing tendency towards distortion and fragmentation of the body, and the striving for a new artistic potential. In these paintings, finally, the early Cubist idiom made itself felt. The style would emerge around 1907 with the epoch-making Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, a study for which forms also the beginning of the Fondation Beyeler's own extensive Picasso collection. This, along with further pioneering paintings of the same year, will conclude the major Picasso exhibition at Fondation Beyeler, which we look forward to with great anticipation. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and I hope you will have an enjoyable stay in Basel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raphael.
Good morning. It is such an honor to be invited to speak about this exceptional exhibition dedicated to my grandfather, Picasso's Blue and Rose period, which will be held at the Fondation Beyeler. So from February to May 2019. I would like to thank the foundation and the wonderful curators and my friends, the remarkable Sam Keller, for inviting me to this press event. My family has always been close to the Beyeler Foundation and who organized major exhibitions in Picasso's oeuvres, for example, Picasso's 1981 in 1981, and Picasso's Der Maler und seine Modell in 1986, or Picasso Surreal in 2005. Ernst Beyeler bought several Picasso's works during his lifetime through Jean Planck before he met my grandfather for the first time in 1966 in Mougins. On this occasion, Picasso allowed him to choose 26 paintings to exhibit and sell. He later acquired a sheaf of Picasso's drawings, which gave him the opportunity to organize the exhibition 90 works on paper for the artist's 90th birthday in 1971. 10 years later, the Galerie Beyeler set up a retrospective to celebrate the centuries of Picasso's birth. As a collector of Picasso's work, Ernst Beyeler loved the Dora period. One day, he saw at James Johnson Sweeney's The Portrait of Dora Maar, painted during the war in 1944. It was meant to be difficult to sell because dark, but he finally managed to buy it. My family paid the cost of his passion when he actually gave the portrait of Émilie Marguerite Walter, my Marie-Thérèse's mother, in exchange of a sculpture, monumental sculpture, representing the great monument of Apollinaire Dora Maar. So he made an exchange with my mother. But this demonstrates, of course, once again, that how successful he was, an excellent art dealer, and with a sharp eye. Dora Maar and Picasso's relationship spans the intense period from the outbreak of the Spanish Civil War to the end of the Second World War. Each of the master's paintings from those years in the 40s emanates a dramatic power with gray and brown color tone. In 1912, our dear friend Carmen Jiménez, who now has a show at the Fondation Janada, Carmen Jiménez curated an important exhibition which examined his continuous use of the black and white palette throughout his career. The minimal use of color in Picasso's works showed his focus on time, on line, form, drawing, and monochromatic and tonal values. The recurrent motif of black, white, and gray is evident in his blue and rose period, pioneering investigations into cubism and neoclassical figurative paintings. By comparison, my grandmother Marie-Therèse's period is deeply different. Paintings are full of glowing and vibrant color. Red, yellow, mauve are predominant. In an article, art historian Linda Nochlin examines Picasso's use of color in his work and its significance. She explains how he explored dramatic chromatic combination to express a vast range of political, erotic, lyrical, and parodic feelings. For example, the combinations of yellow and purple became Marie-Thérèse's chromatic symbols. The yellow, which evokes the sunlight, is also the color of the young woman's hair, while purple, connotating light, is used for her flesh. It may be interesting to note that mauve is actually a subtle combination of pink and blue. Blue color has an erotic and celestial dimension. Blue tones envelop the figures, but also a kind of vitality. It's the first color who wholly dominates the artist's work, and he used it throughout his life. Blue also refers to the warmth of Mediterranean summer nights, and will be the only touch of color of his last self-portrait and his last painting. There is a kind of melancholy and gravity in Picasso's entire work. And this is precisely this depth that I particularly appreciate in his blue period. Picasso made his first trip to Paris in 1900 with Casagemas, his friend who committed suicide at a cafe in Paris the following year. The artist's theme grew somber and dark, and he frequently visited Saint-Lazare Hospital to observe the sick. Blue and rose period refers to a period of instability and poverty. At this time, he often used twice his own canvases because he didn't have enough money to buy new ones. In summer 1901, he held his first exhibition in Paris at Galerie Vola, where he met the poet Max Jacob. In 1902, he produced his first sculptures, Pharmacies. Picasso is, of course, not yet the famous artist we all know, who bought later the Château de Bois-Gelou and who drove Hispano-Suiza. I doubt that anyone came to pick him up at the Gare Saint-Lazare when he arrived in 1900. In 1904, he moved to the Bateau Lavoir studio in Montmartre and met Apollinaire and Fernand Olivier, who modeled for him before becoming his partner for the next 7 years. Late 1904, Picasso gradually moved into his rose period, using orange and pink hues. The iconography is dominated by scenes taking place in the circus world, like Saltimbanque or Harlequin, is of course alter ego. I'm glad that the Picasso Museum in Paris, thanks to the wonderful Laurent Lebon, enables all these exhibitions by collaborating with several museums, in this case with the Fondation Beyeler and the Musée d'Orsay. Blue and rose period remains a crucial period in Picasso's career and history of art because it represents the genesis of an aesthetic modernity. I'm thrilled that the Fondation Beyeler will be presenting this show for the first time ever in Europe, and I can't wait to see it with you.
So Diana, you're also organizing Picasso exhibition in Rome. Maybe you can tell us a few words about this sculpture show.
Yes, yeah, there's always so much to explore with Picasso. So yes, I'm curating an exhibition on Picasso sculptures at Villa Borghese in Rome, opening in October. So it will be the occasion to have a dialogue with the great masters like Bernini and Caravaggio, amongst others. Yes, I hope you come too.
Yes, we much
it can warm you up for the show at Beyeler.
Good. Thank you very much. Obviously, we have a unique opportunity to to ask someone who not only as an art historian has a very deep knowledge about Picasso, but also as a curator, a lot of experience with his work, and has a personal connection, of course, to her grandfather. So please use this opportunity and ask Diana a question if you want to. Of course, you're also welcome to ask our curator, Raphael Bouvier. Maybe, Diana, do you want to join us here?
Yes, with pleasure. Yeah, I feel a bit isolated.
Good. Yeah. Please.
I have a question concerning your mother, Maya. How is she doing? She's in her 80s now.
Yes.
How is she doing? Her health and so on? You're in
She's.
contact with her?
I'm in contact? Yes, of course. I see her every day. Yes. You know, I think it runs in the family. They're very strong. They're very resistant. So, yes. Even if she has a hard time walking, and the mind is still very focused on criticism, I would say she has the power to always see what is wrong in a picture, in a person, in a. So I guess she's very well. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for asking.
Good. Yeah, we all have mothers. We know that.
Do you have another question?
Hello. I'm wondering if you can speak a little about the attraction of Harlequins, of the circus theme to Picasso, because it's been used by so many artists besides him, by Calder, by Chagall, by Picasso, etc., and the relevance of that particular theme to Picasso's practice.
It's you. It's you.
Yeah,
It's for you.
actually, as I mentioned, I think the key lack of interest for Picasso is really the harlequin or the acrobat as a kind of alter ego of himself, because the acrobat or the performers of the circus are living in the margins of the society in a certain way. They are living this unconventional way of life, and this was also something that was very interesting for Picasso himself, and he kind of mirrored himself in these groups of people which represent a certain way of life and a special field of society. So I think that was for Picasso himself certainly the main attraction for it. Now, of course, you had also this topic of acrobats and circus performers already in the 19th century. The tradition goes back to other artists. So he also kind of overtakes this tradition. And then for Calden mainly, I think he was more interested in this playful dimension of the circus life. So, but for Picasso, I think it's really the main purpose is this kind of idea of the alter ego.
Mm-hmm. So how should one imagine Picasso in this time in Paris? He didn't just paint them, he actually knew the acrobats, no?
Mm-hmm. Yes, he would pay regular visit to the Cirque Medrano. I think that was an opportunity to observe movement also in real life and maybe transfer it into his work. It was also an escape, I guess. It's a playfulness, just like later on he would, he always loved corrida, but I think maybe there is also a similarity of this kind of a drama. I mean, an acrobat is also, there are some dangers represented like with the game, so maybe that's also a duality, a tension that excites him.
Did he, do you think he felt like he was taking huge risks by creating the work in this period?
I think he was always aware he had a mission. Yes, he followed his deep instincts to represent what he really felt without any preoccupation of what the market was in demand for. So yes, he took risk. Yes, of course. Yes, and he would do so many times in his life.
Sure did.
Like many great artists that are authentic with their intentions. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he certainly did. Any other questions? Please.
Yes, Keller, one
One second, the microphone is just coming to you.
Right, thank you. I was struck by a couple of the comments made during the presentations. One, about the depth of the collections of the participating museums. You noted the prices in the art market these days, and the fact that the period is actually quite popular with the general public. Sometimes general public popularity is somewhat volatile. And the remark about warming up in Rome. So the question basically is this exhibition in some way a roadshow for the period to validate it in the public market and in the auction market for possible recycling of some of this art in the deep collections? Beyeler, Musée d'Orsay, Picasso Museum, not maybe the masterpieces, but there's lots of other pieces in the collection that might be subject for sale. Is that something in the strategy here?
No. I can tell you exactly what the reason is that we have dreamt to do this exhibition for a long time. The founding work of this collection, and then you could say also this museum, is the femme from the Époque des Demoiselles d'Avignon from 1907. This is the first important artwork. I think that the Beyelers Mrs. Beyeler almost left her husband when he wanted to sell that work. She famously put her suitcases under the painting, said, if the painting leaves the house, I'm going to leave as well. So and for our collection, this is really at the core. And our Picasso collection starts with that work in that time. So it was always a great desire of ours to be able to show how did Picasso get there. And that was the motivation to do this exhibition. And of course, having noticed that the works of these periods are spread all over the world, of course, at the Musée Picasso, you can see a group of excellent examples, but it's not possible to go to any museum to really extensively learn about this period. And while it's true that the public loves these works, not everyone in the public has the money to travel around the world, and not everyone is invited to these great private collections that actually hold some of the masterpieces for that period. So this is why we are undertaking this exercise, which is also an adventure, together with our colleagues in Paris. And if you think we have any, or suggesting we have any financial interest, I can tell you the opposite is the case. It's the most expensive exhibition we ever done. We will create the biggest deficit ever. So we own no works from that period. I don't know what other benefits than cultural such an exhibition should have to a museum.
Unless you sell something.
Well, how can you sell something you don't own?
The ones you're presenting are for sale.
We don't have works from that period. This is the one that's going to be the last work in the exhibition to actually show where our collection starts. And yes, we are a museum. Museums buy, they don't sell.
I was recently in Asia, and it's surprising, but in China or in Japan, it's really the period they know the most. I think what is interesting is that we tend to refer it as the early period, but by saying pink and blue, it's really another period. It's, so in other words, there's no past or present. It will allow us to see it as something very new. And yes, so. But of course, we all hope it will benefit the art market. No, I don't think it needs that. I think this is really the period that is already very well recognized. It might be true for other periods, but I don't think for this one. No.
And at the end, it's a complement to our own collection, because that's what is missing in our collection permanently. So it's like, that's why we will really be able to show in this context the entire Picasso, because we will also include our own collection in the presentation of the collection. And so this will be really the occasion to have the entire work of Picasso in one house, in a way.
Yeah, in fact, it is also missing at the Picasso Museum in Paris, because Picasso himself didn't have the capacity to keep them. So, yeah, I think that's why it makes this exhibition quite remarkable, because for the first time you can gather in one place works that are spread out. So, it's also a moment where he's not only painting, but he's developing his passion for printmaking, woodcuts, and sculpture in wood, and first sculpture in clay. So I think it's also a moment where he's exploring dialogues with different materials and techniques, which leads to a work like this. Yeah.
I hope that answers the question.
Sure, thank you very much.
Good. Other questions?
Can I ask like this? It's okay?
I'm just...
Yes?
Yeah. Okay.
I remember after Picasso passed away, that was just short before you were born, there was a big fight about who gets what from the children.
Yeah.
I think there was a fight. Today, there's quite a lot of grandchildren around.
Mm-hmm.
Do these grandchildren own pictures or paintings by Picasso or prints or stuff like that?
Well, if I may say, I don't think there was so many fights. Things were quite clear. There was, he had 4 children and a widow, Jacqueline. There was a struggle to make an inventory of one of the most prolific artists of all time, so it took 5 years. That was a struggle. But after that, things were divided. And then there was some preferential choices, like my mother chose works representing her mother or herself. But honestly, I don't think there was a fight. Maybe the media made it more dramatic, because everything has to be dramatic with Picasso. Yeah. We like that too. And then some children are now passed away, like Polo. So his children inherited from him, Marina and Polo, and yeah. So unless some gift have been given, it's passing on generation in a logical order. Yeah. Yes. But Picasso belongs to everybody. You just have to go to a museum and he's yours.
And what I can confirm is that the Picasso family are very generous lenders and supporters of museums. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Please.
I just want to thank you very much as a child to be here. That there are many wonderful stories about your grandfather, and not only concerning his art, but also his humanity, his courage to stand up politically to certain regimes, and on, and how he was a friend to a number of very, very important people, as well as not important people. So I would love to see some of the personality and humanity expressed, as well as in his pictures, you know, and I hope it is in the brochures and things in the museum. But I thank you inordinately for being here. I think it's wonderful of you to represent him. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thanks for saying that.
Thank you, yeah. Okay, we thank you. We know it's a very busy day for you. Thank you very much for coming out to our museum. Please enjoy the exhibitions, and we much look forward to welcome you again soon, at the very latest for the opening of the Picasso exhibition here on...
From the 2nd of February to the end of May.
2nd of February. Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.